Hallo miteinander, I'm Gash86 and this is Dangerous Suwako. It's the third game in a line of platformers starring Suwako by UTG Soft. The predecessors were Suwako in Pixiv and I Wanna Be the God. If you know these, you know what to expect. Here are some slides to explain the story. Suwako ate a lot of unhealthy food items, got fat by Hollywood standards from it, and decides to lose that weight again by doing an intense, grueling workout program. What a deep tale! Shakespeare could have learned something from it. Without further ado, let's start. Now, we won't be playing this game chronologically. I've handpicked a couple of stages for us that should give you a broader impression of what you get from Dangerous Suwako. Our little protagonist can jump, higher even if she does so from a handstand, and she can fight her enemies with two very different weapons. As a projectile, we throw sacred amulets, and we also have Suwako's signature iron rings for melee attacks. Those are not used for combat alone, they're also a jumping aid. Swinging them around slows your descent and also manipulates your air momentum. They may take a bit of getting used to at first, but once you have the hang of them, they're a great tool. The stage we are in is the first of the relatively easy World 3, and the setting of World 3 is a psychedelic candy land full of pocky, chocolate, cake, and floating strawberries. Before you ask, no, there is no Candyland in canonical Gensokyo. Small liberties have been taken. With a handstand jump, we were able to go above the screen there and reach a secret room. After avoiding a whole bunch of spikes, we get a frog coin from it. Frog coins are the main collectible of Dangerous Suwako. There are 3 in each stage, and if you want to thoroughly complete the game and not just superficially see it to the end, you will have to find their hiding spots. However, a good sense of exploration isn't all you need for that 100% completion rate. No, you will also need to prove your efficiency, as you will receive a rating for each stage once it's done. This rating decides itself on 2 factors. The first one is your completion time, the other is your calorie counter in the lower left, which is basically your score. By killing enemies, breaking bricks, picking up point icons and frog coins, you will collect calories, or rather, you collect the loss of calories, if you can wrap your head around that. Up here is one last sneaky frog coin, and by stepping on the scale, we end the stage. We've made both the calorie and the time threshold, so the gold medal is ours. You can see these thresholds before going into a stage on the world map and in the pause menu. You might have to get familiar with a stage first in order to learn the playstyle for the gold medal. Sometimes you have to fight a bit more, other times the time limit is the main issue. I generally approve of the combination of these 2 factors because that enforces a natural and very efficient playstyle. But enough about the game's systems now. We are in World 5-2 and this one is a lot more vicious. Difficulty has increased noticeably. The swinging energy pillars often give me a hard time. The stage is also heavily populated by keystone thwomps, which you'll have to learn how to bait for some of the tougher jumps. Dangerous Suwako actually manages to have pretty distinct levels in my opinion, which is a big hurdle to overcome for something that is basically trying to be a Mario platformer. I feel a little bad. I've enjoyed it and played through the game multiple times in the past, but never got around to showing it to you, until now at least. Here's another naughty secret. You have to shoot the switch not once but twice in order to make a secret door accessible. And that alone is not yet enough to get us the frog coin. We have to do some more acrobatics for it. Falling down a pit resets a section and costs 20 of our 100 hit points. I wouldn't say that's too punishing. Beware though, actually dying resets your calorie counter, pretty much blowing any chance to gold medal a stage. Back to my own history with Dangerous Suwako. I think I've had it longer than Soul Anchor even, and not making a video about it sooner is a real shame, because the UTG Soft Suwako games have a big personal significance for me. You see, Dangerous Suwako's predecessor, I Wanna Be the God, paired with a very weird coincidence, was the reason I grabbed free recording software and started making Let's Plays. The story is that I commented on a I Wanna Be the God video, whereafter someone hit me up and asked me to record their footage of that game. They couldn't at the time because of technical issues. Having already gotten familiar with recording software in order to fulfill that request was enough of a, let's say, mental push to lead me into trying to record my own video with commentary. If it hadn't been for this unlikely twist of fate brought along by a more than strange request, I might have started my Let's Plays much later, or not at all even. It's very unreal to me, even to this day. We're about to finish 5-2. We've missed the last frog coin unfortunately, which would have been up the loose platforms right before the cave's exit. The moment you touch the ground below, you have unfortunately wasted your chance to get it. No matter. Next up, we are playing something out of World 7, which I believe is meant to be Bavagra, Land of the Celestials. It's got a very pleasant atmosphere and one of the best music tracks in the game if you ask me. Now, if only it didn't have so many deadly pitfalls, but I guess you just can't have a sky-themed world without that, can you? This is 7-5, the last stage of said world, which tend to be the most complex and longest. You could call them castle levels if you wanted. World 7 is an exception though. Its castle is quite tiny, so much that we've already found all the frog coins. What it does have to make up for is a boss fight. Now, if Dangerous Suwako wanted to be all Mario, it wouldn't put much emphasis on the bosses. However, it is also a Toho fan game, and Toho is all about the bosses. Tenchi would have been a good guess for the Bavagra boss, but nope, it is Wimpy and Whiny Kogasa. Wimpy and Whiny in of course the most adorable way possible. In most games, she is a low-level mook, but UTG Soft seems to like her so much that they elevated her to World 7 Guardian. Bosses are fought in multiple phases, spell cards so to say, and Kogasa has a whole 6 of them. Damage can be dealt in 3 ways: amulets, iron rings, and head bouncing. The latter does the most, but is also unsafest. For this spell, it's best to stick close to Kogasa, as all spawning bullets will spread outward. Obviously, the iron rings were the best choice here. With this next one, however, I like to throw amulets from a distance. Works pretty well. You might have noticed that we're often cancelling out bullets with our own attacks. Simply blocking them in this fashion is often more effective than dodging. Reason being, you don't have a miniature hitbox in this game. Your whole sprite is vulnerable, I think. So, no grazing. Not all attacks can be cancelled. Take the aimed light blue orbs of this phase for example, they simply have to be avoided. Next spell card, the iron rings are very helpful once again. Right now we don't really need them, but once the screen fills with bullets, they'll protect us. You don't even have to face the right direction, they'll also repel shots from behind somehow. And here's Kogasa's final assault, and it's an impressive one. We get hit pretty badly here and even juggled a little. You do have a lot of health in Dangerous Suwako, but often very few invincibility frames, depends on the attack. Red shots in this phase, by the way, can't be cancelled. Few more hits and Kogasa explodes. Yup, we blew her to bits for the sake of gaining an athletic figure. Great moral values. Alright, I think you've gotten a picture of Dangerous Suwako. Charming game with good level design. But you know, it is a little two-faced. There's another, darker side to this cutesy game. What do we have here? Masochism mode? We've got some kind of precedent here. I have not practiced this level, I have not even looked at it. But how hard can it be? This kind of hard. Yes, the second half of Dangerous Suwako is 40 Kaizo levels. Kaizo simply translates to hack, but in practice describes a difficulty that deliberately cheats your gamer's instincts and breaks its own established rules. It's basically trying to be stupid hard and annoying. People somehow have a worrisome fascination with games that behave like total assholes to them, and that's what Masochism mode caters to. One thing seems consistent here. Metal blocks are always safe, but never the dirt soil. The closest thing we often have to platforms around here are the enemies we can bounce on, and that is not always easy to do, let alone chaining it together multiple times. Checkpoint. Flagpoles like these are new to Masochism mode. Before, only scene transitions served as checkpoints. If you think this is a gift of mercy, it's not. All Masochism stages I've played were harder than even the very end game of normal mode. And we are dead. There's not really any penalty for this, except like I said your calories resetting to 0, but you're no longer graded on Masochism stages anyway. Simply finishing these stages will tell you that you are marvelous. It actually does say marvelous on the world map. What is still of importance though are the frog coins. So far in this mode, they seem less obscurely hidden and more placed in ways that you need to be skillful to get them. I don't even want to imagine replaying stages just for them. Whether you love or hate Kaizo, I think it's really good how Dangerous Suwako draws the line, makes it clear where the nonsense starts, and that everything before that is a rich and full game, even on its own. It's all up to the players whether they stop there or go on to the Kaizo levels, whereas with some other Kaizo games, like for example Cat Mario or Ares Action, you start these up and it's bullshit from the very first minute. You can't even get used to the controls before you're being trolled. That makes 2 deaths, I suppose. The tricky thing about this frog coin here is that it's so easy to make unreachable. I'd love to get it if I can, so that's why you see me throw myself down a pit from time to time, as soon as I realized it wasn't possible anymore. Right there is one of those cases. Now, I'm sure people who play a lot of Kaizo games won't be too intimidated so far, but remember, this is only World 1-3. Even Kaizo games have some sort of difficulty curve, so I'm sure it gets far nastier later, incomparably nastier. You know how World 1-1 of Masochism mode starts, by the way? You spawn right under a keystone thwomp, because how else would it start? I've been talking from a high horse for a while, but I've got to admit here, those few levels of Masochism mode that I played, didn't completely hate them. I did play them in healthy 1 at a time doses, and they indeed gave me a sense of reward. I think it really does help that I was able to build a bond with the game beforehand. I tend to otherwise ignore games that border on Kaizo, the only other exception that I can think of being Desunoya's Urapani. Just a little more, and we finally reached a checkpoint. On to the last stretch, where expert bouncing prowess is required. We know none of that floor is real, and I won't even trust the upcoming metal blocks if I can help it. You can never know 100%. I bet even this sturdier looking soil here is a trap. Let's just land right on the scale. I didn't actually expect to show you a complete masochism stage. I was only going to record 5 minutes of it as an impression and leave it at that. Whatever, it's for the better. But that was Dangerous Suwako. I greatly recommend half of it and very carefully recommend the other. I'm Gesh86 and this was the closest thing to a blind I Wanna Be the Guy Let's Play you will ever see from me. Bis bald!